2011 was another busy year for UFOs in the news. Contrary to popular belief, UFOs are in the news on a daily basis. In addition to being on the internet and small personal blogs, news related to UFOs and extraterrestrials are increasingly covered by the mainstream media every single day. There were so many incredible UFO sightings during 2011, some which were determined to be hoaxes, while others remain a complete mystery to this day. The search for extraterrestrial life gained momentum, primarily due to the Kepler Space Telescope and other NASA programs that continue to bring us information about potentially habitable planets and moons that we didn't even know existed. There were so many incredible UFO-related news stories in 2011. Here is a look at just a small sample of those stories. In late 2010, there was a lot of news about references to UFOs in the Wikileaks files. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange made fun of the whole thing, but the media went crazy with it. Using files published by the Norwegian paper Aftenposten, in January 2011, Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com was able to uncover a few of the files that mentioned UFOs. One of the files is regarding the Belarusian KGB. Belarus is a republic in Eastern Europe that became independent when the Soviet Union broke down in 1991. Titled The Quote of the Week, the cable says, KGB Chairman Yuri Zaturbin on why his organization no longer investigates paranormal phenomena. Today the situation is different. Then when society was excited by something, it entered our sphere of interest. But when it comes to healers, UFOs and such, we just can't deal with them anymore. Unlike during the USSR, the department is not engaged in studying paranormal phenomena. Back then, we had greater means and opportunity, which we could spend on anything and everything. In late January 2011, business leaders from around the world met in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for the 5th annual Global Competitiveness Forum. Jacques Vallée, a computer scientist, venture capitalist, and longtime UFO researcher, was among the speakers, as well as physicists Dr. Michio Kaku and Stanton Friedman, author and journalist Nick Pope, who worked for the UK Ministry of Defense investigating UFOs, and Dr. Zanglu El Nagar, an accomplished and well-respected professor of earth sciences.
Let me make a prediction, and that is sometime by mid-century, we might make contact with an intelligent civilization in outer space.
The unique thing about what I'm going to read to you now is that we can all agree to it no matter what our belief system is, background, our journey up to this point, no matter how you think or interpret what's going on, or no matter even what the reality is.
Dr. Carol Rosin released the Outer Space Security and Development Treaty of 2011 during her presentation here at the International UFO Congress to a standing ovation. Dr. Rosin, an aerospace consultant, drafted the treaty along with Dr. Scott Jones, a former senior aide to U.S. Senator Claiborne Pell, Apollo astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell, former Boeing executive Abe Krieger, and a retired naval commander, Will Miller.
We can have peace on Earth through peace in space.
Details of a potential alien invasion just off the British Channel were among thousands of close encounter documents in another release of files by the British Ministry of Defense in March. Previously classified records show that this War of the Worlds incident in 1967 was, for a few hours at least, treated as a potentially real alien invasion of the UK. 4 police forces, bomb disposal units, the Army, and the MOD's intelligence branch were all mobilized before it emerged that the saucers were a Rag Day hoax by engineering students from Farnborough Technical College.
I'm dreaming. I see these guys in my head. I see these.
What they look like?
They were just kind of like a beams of light, you know, and they were kind of blue.
Rockstar Sammy Hagar released his book Red: My Uncensored Life in Rock. In the book, Hagar admits he has been contacted by extraterrestrials on multiple occasions. Even though he had discussed his alien encounters in the past, this new mention made headlines because of an interview with Hagar conducted by MTVHive.com. The interview briefly explores the topic of UFOs after Hagar revealed that a passage about alien dreams is based on a true encounter. While the mention of UFOs is brief in his book, Hagar revealed in the interview, "My opinions about the UFO stuff, well, I could write a whole book just devoted to that. I love it, man. I'm into it deep."
And I woke up and it put me on a quest to say, what was that? That was so real. So I think it was a download and upload situation, like an experimental thing, like I was some guinea pig.
In April, the FBI and NSA revamped their websites to make declassified documents easier to find. In doing so, they made it easier to find UFO documents. Although many of the files are interesting, there's nothing new. Instead, the files released by the FBI under the Freedom of Information Act are now compiled in what they call the vault. Some news stories have claimed that the files contain evidence of the famous Roswell crash. However, the document in question is also nothing new to UFO researchers and has been debated for the past few decades since its release in 1977. The SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, suffered from funding issues and had to put a key tool in their search on hold. Allen Telescope Array operations were suspended April 15th. However, in August, it was reported that SETI had reached its goal of raising $200,000 to maintain its operations. One of the private donors was actress Jodie Foster, who played a SETI scientist in the 1997 movie Contact. Foster's donation was accompanied by a note stating, "The Allen Telescope Array could turn science fiction into science fact, but only if it is actively searching the skies."
Who was on the spacecraft?
Well, there were some child-sized aviators, and that's what's most disturbing about my book. It was not Martians, it was actually the Russians. It had been Stalin's idea, and it was originally of a Third Reich design.
With the release of her book, Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base, Annie Jacobson caused a small uprising within the UFO community. Jacobson stated, "In my reporting, I used 74 sources, 32 of whom lived and worked at Area 51 for extended periods of time." One passage stated that Joseph Stalin recruited Joseph Mengele, the Nazi Angel of Death, to surgically alter children to look like aliens in 1947 to be part of the legendary Roswell, New Mexico UFO crash. When confronted by Bill Weir of ABC's Nightline, Jacobson did not back down from her claims.
You are entitled to think what you like.
My producer,
But
madam.
I'm not asking you to believe it, Bill, because you don't have to. I absolutely stand by my source's veracity. And
How can you believe
the
this?
other important thing is that I also have worked with many of his colleagues.
There's absolutely no chance that that last chapter is true in any fashion.
T.D. Barnes, a former electronics, radar, and communications expert who first came to work at Area 51 in 1968, was interviewed by Jacobson for her book.
They think they were snookered, and this is what's so disturbing to us, because some of the people that's in the book are 88 years old. This is their last chance, probably, to get their story told.
In June, Steven Spielberg confirmed rumors that while screening the movie E.T. at the White House in 1982, Ronald Reagan had leaned over to Spielberg, who was sitting right next to him, and said, "I bet there aren't 6 people in this whole room who know how true this whole thing is." Reagan was then ushered out of the room. In an interview while promoting his film Super 8, Spielberg told Quint, a reporter for Ain't It Cool News, "No, he wasn't ushered out of the room," Spielberg went on to say. "He just stood up and looked around the room, almost like he was doing a head count. And he said, 'I wanted to thank you for bringing E.T. to the White House. We really enjoyed your movie.' And then he looked around the room and said, 'And there are a number of people in this room who know that everything on that screen is absolutely true.' And he said it without smiling." Also in June, the Argentinian Air Force officially launched their commission for the investigation of aerospace phenomena. The event was presided by Captain Mariano Mojabt, an Argentinian Air Force spokesman who has been interacting with several Argentinian ufologists in recent months. But to give weight to the event, a brief statement was also given by Brigadier General Ernesto Omar Paris. This commission will undertake a scientific study of aerospace phenomena. A well-known case in ufology has been immortalized with a commemorative marker in New Hampshire. The Betty and Barney Hill alien abduction case, which took place in 1961, now has a roadside marker which is located next to the highway in front of cabin number 20 at the Indian Head Resort in North Lincoln and across the street from the granite stone face called the Indian Head. To this day, Kathleen Martin, niece of Betty and Barney Hill, continues her quest to find more evidence pertaining to the case.
I have abductions from Rome, abductions from London. This can't be if it could be seen. I mean, if somebody's going to look up and see a UFO.
In August, ufology lost one of its greatest pioneers. Bud Hopkins, the father of the alien abduction movement, died at the age of 80 on August 21st at his home in Manhattan. He has long been considered ufology's most visible figure. He pioneered the investigation into the most controversial aspect of the UFO phenomenon, the systematic abduction of human beings by UFO occupants. As the world's premier expert on this issue, he worked with more than 1,000 people who have reported abduction experiences over the past 20 years. A prolific writer and internationally respected painter, Hopkins has delivered hundreds of UFO lectures around this country and around the world. His groundbreaking first book, Missing Time, was the first work to compare a number of UFO abduction cases in order to isolate the patterns they revealed. Hopkins' goal was to bring an objective, dispassionate scientific intelligence to the UFO abduction phenomenon. To this end, he founded the Intruders Foundation, IF, in 1989. Peter Robbins, who served as Hopkins' personal assistant, will be speaking about his personal relationship with Hopkins on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. NASA announced the discovery of 50 new planets circling stars beyond the Sun, including one super-Earth that is the right distance from its star to possibly have water. The planet, dubbed HD 85512b, circles an orange star somewhat smaller and cooler than our Sun, about 36 light-years away. September also saw the passing of Charles E. Hickson Sr. at the age of 80. Hickson was the eldest of two men who made global headlines with their accounts of being snatched from the banks of the Pascagoula River in 1973 by space aliens. Hickson was 42 when he and then 19-year-old Calvin Parker reported to Jackson County Sheriff Fred Diamond that they were fishing on October 11, 1973, off a pier at the Chapouter shipyard when they heard a buzzing noise behind them. According to Hickson, he was subjected to some sort of biological examination by what appeared to be a large football-shaped mechanical eye about 6 to 8 inches in diameter, which seemed to scan his body. Lee Spiegel reported that the military deleted a passage about unidentified flying objects from a 2008 Air Force personnel manual just days after the Huffington Post asked Pentagon officials about the purpose of the UFO section. Before the recent revisions, the document, Air Force Instruction 10-206, advised pilots, radar operators, and other Air Force personnel on what to do when they encountered any unknown airborne objects. Now, in the 2011 version, the reference to UFOs, which simply means unidentified flying objects, not necessarily spaceships with little green men, has been eliminated. What makes this so intriguing is that the US government officially stopped investigating UFOs in 1969 with the termination of the Air Force's Project Blue Book. October brought an announcement that an expert in UFOs and paranormal activity is set to become Leicestershire's voice in the European Parliament. The decision by East Midlands Tory MEP Roger Helmer to quit at the end of the year means that Rupert Matthews is due to replace him. Matthews has written more than 180 books on history, military, and paranormal subjects. Matthews also runs an online course about the paranormal on behalf of the International Metaphysical University. His duties commenced on December 31st. The White House responded to a request to acknowledge the presence of extraterrestrial beings interacting with humankind. Unfortunately for the requesters, the White House says it doesn't have any evidence that life exists outside our planet, let alone advanced civilizations to be in contact with. In September, the White House launched the new program called We the People, which enables citizens to submit an online petition. If the petition receives enough signatures, the White House issues an official response. UFO ET activist Stephen Bassett immediately submitted a petition asking the Obama administration to, quote, formally acknowledge an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. Soon after, a second petition was submitted asking the White House to, quote, immediately disclose the government's knowledge of and communications with extraterrestrial beings. Both petitions received the necessary 5,000 signatures, which has since been changed to 25,000 signatures, required for a response. Bill Larson, who works on space policy and communications at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, responded to these two petitions with the following statement: the U.S. government has no evidence that any life exists outside our planet, or that an extraterrestrial presence has contacted or engaged any member of the human race. In addition, there is no credible information to suggest that any evidence is being hidden from the public's eye. A German citizen won his first battle in an effort to view a UFO report created by the Scientific Service of the German Parliament, aka Bundestag. After attempts by the Bundestag to block the document's release, the Berlin Administrative Court ruled that the German citizen has the right to read the document as requested. The Bundestag is appealing the decision, sending it to the Supreme Administrative Court of Berlin-Brandenburg for a final decision. Germany has claimed that they have never officially investigated the UFO phenomenon. However, other European nations, such as Britain and France, have not only held official investigations, they have released thousands of previously classified documents. This is what has inspired German citizen Frank Reitemeyer in his quest to seek out Germany's X-Files. He told the Berlin court, "I want to know facts, and it bothers me that in France, England, USA, Canada, the citizens can see the UFO files, and I am not informed as a German from my German government. It is therefore such a glaring discrepancy. In France, a citizen is automatically informed by his government because the government provides the UFO files to the website of the space agency. So officially, on the government side, anyone can view the documents free at home." The document in question is titled, "The Search for Extraterrestrial Life and the implication of UN Resolution A/33/426 on the observation of unidentified flying objects and extraterrestrial life forms. In the first weeks of 2012, the Mutual UFO Network reported an increase in the number of UFO sightings reported compared to last year. Also, countries around the world are racing each other to launch manned space exploration missions. This new space race, MUFON's data hinting at higher than normal UFO sightings, and the mass media's increased willingness to report on UFO-related news all give a strong indication that 2012 is going to be an incredibly busy year for UFO-related news.